brought to you by Soundlibra.com. You can find a direct link to our full library in the description of this audio, or visit us anytime at Soundlibra.com. Mastering difficult conversations starts now. I'm Alex.
And I'm Lisa. We're so excited to begin this journey with you.
Before we dive in, a quick note that while we're discussing communication and well-being, this isn't substitute for professional mental health advice. So please consult a professional if you're facing a serious crisis.
That is such an important point. Today, in our very first episode, we're diving straight into the core of why these conversations matter so much. We'll explore why we often shy away from them and the incredible impact that mastering them can have on every area of our lives.
Exactly, Lisa. Think about it. What do we most need to have tough conversations? Usually, it's when something is really important to us. It could be about a disagreement at work, a concern in a relationship, or even a personal boundary we need to set. If we avoid them, we're essentially letting the important things slide.
And that avoidance has consequences, doesn't it? It's like putting a Band-Aid on a deeper wound. It might feel like a solution in the short term, but the underlying issue just festers.
Precisely. When we avoid difficult conversations, we often allow misunderstandings to grow. Resentment can build up, and situations that could have been resolved with a clear, open discussion can escalate into much bigger problems. We might see a decline in productivity at work, a breakdown in trust in our personal relationships, or a general sense of unease that saps our energy.
So, instead of solving something, we're actually creating more problems by avoiding the conversation. It seems a bit guide-like, but it makes so much sense when you lay it out. It's like ignoring a small leak in your roof. It might seem easier in the moment, but eventually, that small leak can cause significant water damage.
That's a great analogy, Lisa. And the damage isn't just external. Avoiding these conversations can also take a toll on our own well-being. The stress of not saying what needs to be said, the anxiety of expecting conflict, the regret of missed opportunities, it all weighs on us. We might feel less confident, more anxious, and less in control of our own lives.
It's a cycle, isn't it? We avoid the conversation because we anticipate negative feelings, and then we experience negative feelings because we avoided the conversation. It feels like a trap.
It can feel that way. But here's the good news. This is a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned and improved. The goal of this series is to equip you with the tools and confidence to navigate these conversations effectively. We're not talking about being aggressive or confrontational. We're talking about being clear, compassionate, and constructive.
So, what does it look like to handle a difficult conversation skillfully? What's the alternative to avoidance?
The alternative is engagement. It's about stepping into those challenging moments with a mindset that sees them not as threats, but as opportunities. Opportunities to understand each other better, to strengthen relationships, to solve problems, and to grow. Think of it as a doorway. On one side is the discomfort of avoidance, and on the other side is the potential for positive change.
And that doorway is open through preparation and a structured approach. You mentioned a framework earlier, Alex. Can you give us a little preview of what we'll be exploring throughout this series?
Absolutely. We'll build our approach on what we call the 4 pillars of effective, difficult conversations. These are not just abstract ideas. They are practical steps you can take. The first pillar is preparation. This means understanding your own goals, gathering relevant information, and thinking about the other person's perspective before you even open your mouth.
Preparation. That makes sense. Going in blind is rarely a good strategy for anything, let alone a potentially tricky conversation.
Exactly. The second pillar is opening. This is about how you initiate the conversation. We'll explore techniques for starting on the right foot, setting a positive and collaborative tone, and ensuring both parties feel safe to speak.
So, it's not about ambushing someone, but about creating an environment where an honest exchange can happen.
Precisely. Pillar number 3 is exchange. This is the heart of the conversation itself. It's where you actively listen, share your perspective clearly and respectfully, and navigate disagreements constructively. We'll delve into active listening, understanding underlying needs, and how to manage emotions when they inevitably surface.
Active listening, that's something we can all improve on, I think. Really hearing what the other person is saying beyond just the words.
Indeed. And finally, the fourth pillar is resolution and reflection. This is about how you move forward after the conversation. What are the agreed upon next steps? How do you ensure the conversation leads to lasting change or improved understanding? And critically, how do you reflect on the process to get even better next time?
Preparation, opening, exchange, and resolution and reflection. Those four pillars sound like a solid foundation for tackling any challenging conversation. It's not just about what you say, but how you prepare, initiate, interact, and follow up.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. And throughout this series, we'll break down each of these pillars with practical strategies, relatable examples, and actionable advice. We'll explore how to apply these skills in various contexts, from the workplace to our families and personal relationships.
It's about transforming something we often fear into a powerful tool for building stronger connections and achieving better outcomes. It's not just about surviving difficult conversations, but thriving because of them.
You've got it. So, if you've ever felt anxiety just thinking about a tough talk, or if you found yourself avoiding conversations that matter, you're in the right place. Mastering difficult conversations isn't about eliminating conflict. It's about managing it effectively to foster understanding and progress. We're going to help you unlock that skill.
We've covered why avoiding difficult conversations is problematic and introduced our four-pillar framework: preparation, opening, exchange, and resolution and reflection. These pillars will guide us through every step of mastering these crucial interactions.
Next episode, laying the groundwork. Preparation is key.
Thanks for listening.
Welcome back. Last time we discussed why tough conversations matter. Now, let's focus on preparation. Lisa, why is this groundwork so vital?
Think about planning any major undertaking, Alex. You wouldn't embark on a complex project or journey without a plan. Difficult conversations are precisely the same. Going in unprepared is like sailing without a map. You might reach a destination, but it's unlikely to be your intended one, and you'll likely face unexpected challenges. Preparation allows us to guide the conversation.
Control is key. The initial step in preparation is defining your purpose clearly. What do you aim to achieve? Is it to resolve a conflict, offer feedback, set boundaries, or voice a need? You should be able to articulate your objective simply and precisely.
So, before speaking, we should be able to answer, what is the single most important thing I need from this conversation?
Precisely. Often, this involves identifying a specific outcome. For instance, addressing performance issues might mean your objective is to help my team member understand the impact of late submissions and agree on a new workflow for timely completion. This is far more effective than just stating, I need to tell them they're late.
That clarifies things, moving from a general feeling to a concrete goal. So, step one, define your objective. What follows in this preparation phase?
The next vital component is understanding your audience. Who are you speaking with? What is their likely perspective? Consider their motivations, fears, and potential sensitivities. This requires thoughtful consideration, not mind reading. If you're addressing a subordinate, their concerns might involve job security or your perception of their work. With a friend, the friendship itself might be the primary concern.
How does understanding their perspective aid our preparation?
It helps us anticipate their reactions. If you know someone tends to become defensive when receiving criticism, you can prepare to phrase your feedback gently. Conversely, if they prefer directness, you can adjust your style. It's about crafting your message and delivery to connect with them, rather than simply presenting your own viewpoint. So, first, know your goal. Second, understand your audience. What else can we do to set the stage for a successful conversation?
Another absolutely essential element is anticipating potential responses. This is where preparation truly pays off. With your objective and audience understanding in place, you can consider how they might react. Will they agree readily? Will they argue? Will emotion surface? Will they withdraw?
This feels like mental rehearsal, doesn't it? Running through possible scenarios.
Exactly. By visualizing these potential responses, you can begin to plan your own reactions. For example, if you anticipate anger, you can prepare phrases to help de-escalate. If you suspect they'll try to change the subject, you can plan how to steer the conversation back to your main point. It's about having a strategy ready before you engage.
I often think of this as pre-planning your responses, not to follow a script, but to have reliable strategies accessible. So, define your objective, understand your audience, and anticipate responses. What about our own inner state? That seems like a significant part of preparation.
Oh, absolutely. Managing your own emotions is critical. If you start a difficult conversation feeling anxious, angry, or defensive, those feelings will inevitably influence your words and actions, usually negatively. So, before the conversation, take time to calm yourself. This could involve deep breathing, a short walk, listening to calming music, or simply quiet reflection.
It's about addressing your own internal burdens. If you're carrying anger, you're far more likely to react harshly, even with constructive intentions.
Precisely. And part of managing your emotions involves detaching from the exact outcome. While you have an objective, you cannot dictate the other person's reaction or the final resolution. Dwelling on a specific, perfect outcome can create immense pressure. Instead, focus on delivering your message clearly and respectfully and managing your own conduct throughout. Allow yourself to be imperfect.
That's a powerful point, Lisa. Detaching from the outcome allows us to concentrate on the process and our own behavior within it. So, to summarize this vital preparation stage, first, we establish a clear, concise objective for the conversation. What absolutely must be achieved. Second, we consider our audience, aiming to grasp their perspective, motivations, and potential concerns. Third, we anticipate possible responses and prepare our strategies for navigating them. And finally, perhaps most importantly, we manage our emotional state, ensuring we approach the conversation from a place of calm and self-possession.
It all comes down to this. The more time and thought you dedicate to preparation, the smoother and more productive your difficult conversations will become. It's not about avoiding discomfort, but about managing it effectively.
Exactly. You're setting yourself up for success before the first word is even exchanged. Next episode, we'll move on to the next crucial stage, how to actually open the door and begin that tough talk.
I'm looking forward to it. Next episode, Opening the Door, How to Start a Tough Talk. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back. Last time we covered preparing for difficult conversations. Now let's tackle opening the door.
Exactly, Alex. Preparation is one thing, but the first few moments of a difficult conversation can feel like walking a tightrope. If we stumble right at the beginning, the rest can be incredibly hard to recover from. So, how do we build that bridge to a productive discussion?
The key, Lisa, is to intentionally create a safe space right from the start. This isn't about avoiding the difficulty, but about framing it constructively. Think of it like giving someone a heads up before you deliver some challenging news. You wouldn't just blurt it out, you'd ease into it.
That makes sense. It's about signaling that your intention isn't to attack or blame, but to address something important. So, how do we do that practically? What are some concrete ways to open the door?
One of the most effective strategies is using neutral, non-accusatory language. Instead of saying, "We need to talk about your performance," which immediately puts someone on the defensive, try something like, "I wanted to share some observations I've had recently about our project and get your thoughts." See the difference?
Oh, absolutely. Observations and getting thoughts feels much more collaborative and less like an interrogation. It invites dialogue rather than demanding a defense. So, the focus shifts from "you did this wrong" to "let's review this together."
Precisely. And this ties directly back to your preparation from episode 2. You've thought about your specific concerns, your desired outcome, and how you feel. Now, you're translating those internal thoughts into external language that's less likely to trigger an automatic defensive response.
Right. So, I've prepared my points, I've thought about my emotions, and now I'm choosing my opening words carefully. What else is important in those initial moments?
Setting a collaborative tone is paramount. You want to signal that you're a team, even when discussing a problem. Phrases like, "I'm hoping we can work through this together," or "My goal here is to find a solution that works for both of us," can be incredibly powerful. It redirects the focus from opposition to partnership.
That's a great point. It's about framing the conversation as a shared challenge, not a personal conflict. It's easy to forget that when we're feeling stressed about the topic, but that outward projection of partnership is so important.
It absolutely is. And it's also about being clear about your intention. Sometimes people avoid difficult conversations because they're afraid of where it might lead, or they're not sure what the other person's intentions are. So, stating your positive intent up front can alleviate a lot of that anxiety.
So, let's recap what we've talked about for opening a difficult conversation. First, we want to create a safe space. And we do that by using neutral, non accusatory language, shifting away from blame and towards observation.
Exactly. And as Lisa mentioned, framing it as a collaborative effort is key. Instead of talking about problems, we're talking about shared challenges and opportunities for improvement.
And importantly, we're stating our positive intent clearly, letting the other person know that our goal is constructive and mutually beneficial. This all ties back to the preparation work we explored previously.
It certainly does. When you've done your preparation, you're not walking into the conversation blind. You have a clearer understanding of what you want to achieve, and you've considered how to communicate that effectively from the very first word.
So, it's about being deliberate and mindful in those initial moments, rather than letting the awkwardness or tension dictate the start of the discussion. It's about guiding the conversation from the outset.
Precisely. And remember, it's not about being perfectly scripted. It's about having a clear intention and using language that invites understanding. Think about it like this. If you're trying to navigate a tricky path, you wouldn't just dash ahead. You'd carefully survey the terrain and choose your first few steps with purpose. Starting a difficult conversation is much the same.
That's a great analogy, Alex. Carefully choosing those first few steps to guide the journey. And it sounds like the preparation we discussed in the last episode is the key to knowing where to step.
You've hit the nail on the head. Without that preparation, those opening words might be haphazard or worse, inflammatory. When you understand your objectives and your own emotional state, you can choose language that is calm, clear, and constructive.
And it's not just about the words themselves, but also the delivery. A calm tone of voice, making appropriate eye contact, and having open body language all contribute to that safe space we talked about.
Absolutely. The nonverbal cues are just as important as the verbal ones. They signal sincerity and openness. So, to summarize, when opening a difficult conversation, aim for neutral language, a collaborative tone, and a clear statement of positive intent, all while being mindful of a nonverbal communication.
It's about building a foundation of trust and mutual respect right from the very first sentence, so that when you do get to the heart of the matter, both parties are more receptive.
Exactly. And this preparation for the opening might also involve asking yourself, what's the best time and place to have this conversation? Sometimes, simply choosing the right environment can significantly impact how well the conversation begins. A private, interruption-free setting is usually best.
That's a practical consideration that I think many people overlook. Rushing into a tough talk when someone is distracted or stressed makes it almost impossible to start well. So, it's about setting the stage not just with words, but with the entire context of the discussion.
Indeed. And if you're initiating the conversation, it's also beneficial to offer the other person some agency. You can say something like, I'd like to discuss X. Does this time work for you? Or would you prefer to find another moment? This shows respect for their time and their readiness.
That's a really thoughtful approach. It reinforces that sense of partnership you mentioned earlier. It's not a decree, it's an invitation to address something important together.
So, to quickly recap our core strategies for opening a difficult conversation. First, establish a safe space by using neutral, non-accusatory language. Second, set a collaborative tone by framing the issue as a shared challenge. Third, clearly state your positive intent. And fourth, be mindful of your nonverbal cues as well as the time and place.
And remember that offering the other person some input into the timing can also make a big difference. It really boils down to approaching the conversation with respect and a genuine desire for a positive outcome.
That's right. By mastering the art of opening the door, you significantly increase your chances of navigating through the rest of the conversation constructively. Next episode, Navigating the Storm, Managing Pressure and Emotion During Difficult Conversations. Welcome back. Last time we prepared for an open tough talk. Now, let's navigate the storm of pressure and emotion.
Exactly, Alex. We've prepared, we've started, but then things get intense. It feels like a brewing storm testing our calm. So, what are our first defenses when tension climbs?
Focus on ourselves, our internal state. Remember self-awareness? It pays off here. When you feel heat rising, hit pause. A simple, conscious breath creates space between trigger and reaction.
A breath. Sounds simple, but I see how that pause interrupts a negative cycle. Recognizing physical signs of tension, a tight chest, clenched jaw, and using breathing to regain control.
Precisely. Think of it as a thermostat for your emotions. Identify the emotion without judgment. You're not suppressing it, but understanding it so it doesn't control you.
Self-monitoring. What about when the other person's emotions escalate? How do we de-escalate tension fueled by someone else's frustration or anger?
That's the harder part. The most effective strategy is often the opposite of instinct. Instead of defending or raising your voice, create a safe space for them to express themselves without escalating. Active listening is critical.
Active listening. How does it specifically help de-escalate tension?
It's about truly hearing them, not just waiting to speak. When people feel heard, their emotional intensity often decreases. Make eye contact, nod, use verbal cues. Phrases like, I hear you, or I understand your feeling, can be powerful. You're reflecting their concerns, validating their feelings without necessarily agreeing.
So, it's acknowledging their perspective and emotions. Like saying, I see your storm, and I'm not adding to it.
A perfect analogy. You're creating a calm harbor. Gently reframe or summarize their points. Sometimes escalation comes from feeling misunderstood. Rephrasing ensures clarity and shows you're trying to grasp their viewpoint. For example, it sounds like you're feeling frustrated because you believe the deadline was unrealistic. Is that right?
And by doing that, we're also giving ourselves time to process and formulate a thoughtful response, not an immediate emotional one.
Exactly. Now, what if the conversation gets bogged down in blame? Accusations are easy to get defensive about. Pivot from blame to problem solving.
How do we do that effectively when someone is pointing fingers?
It requires a conscious shift. Instead of dwelling on fault, steer the conversation towards the desired outcome. Try. I understand your concern. Moving forward, how can we ensure this doesn't occur again? Or let's focus on what we can do to resolve this now. Acknowledge the past without getting stuck there.
That's a key distinction. Moving from finding fault to finding solutions. It reframes the dynamic and looks ahead.
And sometimes when emotions run high, a temporary pause is beneficial. It's not avoiding the conversation, but agreeing to step away to cool down. This needs to be a collaborative agreement. You can say, I can see this is very upsetting. Perhaps we could take a 10-minute break and then reconvene.
Acknowledging the shared difficulty makes the suggestion feel like a strategic pause, not an escape. And crucially, you must commit to coming back.
Absolutely. A promised return is vital for trust. So, to recap, first, self-regulation. Use deep breaths and self-awareness. Second, active listening to de-escalate by making them feel heard. Use phrases that acknowledge feelings and summarize points. Third, when blame arises, pivot to problem solving and future actions. And finally, consider a temporary, agreed upon break if emotions are overwhelming, with a commitment to returning.
Those are practical tools, Alex. It's about creating space, internally and in the conversation, for cooler heads to prevail. It's managing the emotional energy.
Exactly. Mastering these techniques transforms damaging confrontations into productive dialogues. Next episode, we'll focus on the profound power of truly listening, hearing beyond the words.
Next episode, the power of listening, hearing beyond the words.
Welcome back to Master Difficult Conversations. Today, we're exploring the power of truly hearing beyond the words.
That's right, Alex. We've all been in conversations where it feels like we're just waiting for our turn to speak, or where we're so focused on formulating our rebuttal that we miss what the other person is actually saying. Today is all about understanding how to truly hear beyond the words.
Exactly. And it's not just about hearing the words. It's about understanding the meaning, the emotions, and the underlying needs behind those words. This is active listening. It's the cornerstone of not just surviving difficult conversations, but actually thriving in them.
So, active listening. It sounds simple, but I imagine there's a lot more to it than just staying quiet while someone else talks. What are the key elements, Alex?
You hit the nail on the head, Lisa. It's definitely more than just silence. Active listening has a few core components. First, there's paying full attention. This means putting distractions aside. Your phone, your racing thoughts, anything that pulls you away. It's about being present in the moment.
So, no checking emails under the table?
Ideally, no. And it's not just about not speaking. It's about nonverbal cues. This includes making appropriate eye contact, nodding to show you're engaged, and having an open, receptive posture. It signals to the speaker that you are invested in what they're saying.
That makes sense. It's like saying, I'm here and I care about what you're sharing. What else is involved?
The next crucial part is demonstrating understanding. This is where we move beyond just hearing sounds. We show we've grasped their message by reflecting back what we've heard. You can do this by paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing. Can you give us an example?
Certainly, if someone says, I'm really frustrated because this project deadline keeps shifting and I feel like I'm constantly chasing my tail. You might respond by paraphrasing. So if I'm understanding correctly, you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious because the project deadline keeps changing and it's making it hard to stay on track.
I see. You're rephrasing their feelings and the situation in your own words to confirm you've got it right. It's not just repeating, but processing and then re-articulating.
Precisely. This not only confirms your understanding, but also assures the speaker that they've been heard. It's a powerful way to build rapport and avoid misunderstandings. And remember from episode 3, how we discussed opening the door to a tough talk. Active listening is what keeps that door open once it's been opened.
It really strengthens that connection. What about when there's a lot of emotion involved? That's often when listening gets hardest.
That's a fantastic point, Lisa. When emotions are high, empathy becomes paramount. Empathetic listening means try to understand the speaker's feelings from their perspective, not yours. It's about acknowledging those emotions without judgment. You might say, I can see how upsetting that must be, or it sounds like you're feeling really let down.
So, even if you don't agree with the situation, you can validate their emotional experience.
Exactly. You're not saying you agree with their actions or their perspective on the facts, but you are acknowledging the validity of their feelings. This de-escalates tension dramatically. Think of it like this. If someone is feeling cold, you don't argue about whether it's cold. You offer them a blanket. Empathetic listening offers that emotional blanket.
That's a great analogy. What about when things are unclear? Sometimes people ramble, or their point isn't immediately obvious.
That's where asking clarifying questions comes in. These are open-ended questions designed to elicit more information and ensure you're on the same page. Instead of a closed question like, did you finish the report? You'd ask something more open.
Like what?
You could ask, can you tell me more about what happened with the report? Or what specifically made that part of the process so difficult? These encourage detailed responses and help you uncover the full picture. They're invitations to share more.
So we're really digging deeper, not just skimming the surface. And I imagine this ties into understanding nonverbal cues, which you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. While we can't see each other on an audiobook, in person, body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice convey a huge amount of information. Someone might say, I'm fine, with a slumped posture and a flat tone, clearly indicating they're not fine. Learning to read these cues allows you to hear what's not being said. Episode 11 will dive deeper into this, but it's important to be aware of it now.
It's like having a second layer of communication to pay attention to. So, to recap what we've discussed about active listening, we need to pay full attention, demonstrate understanding through paraphrasing, listen with empathy to acknowledge emotions, ask clarifying questions to get more detail, and be mindful of nonverbal cues.
That's a perfect summation, Lisa. And remember, active listening isn't just a passive skill, it's an active choice. It requires conscious effort and practice, but the rewards are immense. It builds trust, resolves conflicts more effectively, and fosters genuine connection.
It truly transforms conversations from battles of wills into opportunities for mutual understanding and growth. It's about moving from a place of defending your own ideas to understanding theirs, and then finding solutions together.
Precisely. And when you truly listen, you often discover that the common ground you were looking for was there all along, just waiting to be uncovered. Building on this foundation of deeply understanding others is key to navigating any difficult conversation, whether it's with a colleague, a family member, or a friend.
It's a skill that impacts every area of our lives. So, for our listeners, the challenge this week is to really practice active listening in your everyday interactions. Notice the difference it makes.
Excellent advice. Next time, we're going to explore how to turn potential disagreements into opportunities for growth and how to find that common ground, even when you initially seem to be miles apart.
Looking forward to it.
Next episode, Disagreement as Opportunity, Finding Common Ground. Welcome back to Master Difficult Conversations. Last time, we dove deep into the power of active listening. Now, we're ready to tackle disagreement.
Alex, disagreement can feel like hitting a wall. We often see it as a sign that things have gone wrong or that we're fundamentally at odds with someone. It's easy to get defensive or feel like we've failed if a conversation leads to conflict.
Absolutely, Lisa. And that's precisely why this episode is so crucial. We want to reframe disagreement. Instead of seeing it as a roadblock, what if we viewed it as an opportunity? An opportunity to understand better, to find common ground, and even to strengthen our relationships and our outcomes.
That shift in perspective sounds powerful. But how do we do that? When someone disagrees with you, your first instinct might be to fight your corner, to prove them wrong.
Exactly. The first step is to consciously resist that urge. Instead of preparing your counterargument, prepare to understand. Remember our discussion on active listening? This is where it pays off. When someone expresses an opposing view, try to listen for the underlying needs, values, or concerns driving that disagreement. What's important to them? What are they trying to achieve or protect?
So it's about digging deeper than the surface level argument. Instead of focusing on you're wrong about X, we're asking, why is X so important to you? And what are you afraid might happen if we don't agree on it?
Precisely. Think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to decide on a vacation destination. One person wants a beach, the other wants mountains. The disagreement is beach versus mountains. But the underlying need might be relaxation, adventure, or time with family. If you focus only on beach versus mountains, you might never reach a solution. But if you explore those underlying needs, relaxation, adventure, you might find a lake with a sandy shore that offers both, or a cabin with hiking trails nearby in a peaceful setting.
That's a great analogy. It shows how focusing on what people want can lead to a stalemate, but understanding why they want it opens up possibilities. So, after we've listened and identified those deeper needs or values, what's next?
The next step is to acknowledge and validate those needs, even if you don't agree with their proposed solution. Phrases like, I hear that quality time with your family is incredibly important to you, or it sounds like you're really concerned about the budget, and I understand why that's a priority, can make a huge difference. This doesn't mean you're conceding your point. It means you're showing respect for their perspective and their core drivers.
That validation can really de escalate the tension, can it? It signals that you're not dismissing them, even if you have a different idea.
It absolutely can. And once that bridge of understanding is built, you can start to look for common ground. Often, beneath the surface of disagreement, there are shared goals or values. Perhaps you both want the project to succeed. Perhaps you both want a harmonious team environment. Perhaps you both value honesty.
So, we're looking for those shared pillars, the things that aren't in dispute.
Exactly. Once you identify a shared value or goal, you can say something like, okay, so we both agree that timely delivery is crucial for this client. That's our starting point. From that shared foundation, you can then begin to explore solutions together. You can say, given that we both want timely delivery, how can we address your concern about potential delays?
This feels like reframing disagreement from a battle to a collaborative problem solving session.
That's the heart of it. And when you approach disagreement this way, you're not just resolving a specific issue, you're building trust and resilience. You're showing the other person that even when you see things differently, you can still work together effectively. This is particularly important in long-term relationships, whether they're personal or professional.
It fosters a sense of psychological safety, doesn't it? Knowing that you can voice a different opinion without fear of severe repercussions or rejection.
That's a perfect way to put it. And this approach also encourages creativity. When we're forced to move beyond our initial positions, we often come up with solutions that neither of us would have thought of individually. It's the synergy of different perspectives. Sometimes the best idea comes from the tension created by disagreement.
So, to recap for our listeners, don't shy away from disagreement. See it as an opportunity. First, actively listen to understand the underlying needs and values driving the other person's viewpoint. Then, validate those feelings and concerns to build rapport. Next, identify any shared goals or values to establish common ground. Finally, use that common ground to collaboratively explore solutions.
Excellent summary, Lisa. By reframing disagreement as an opportunity for deeper understanding and collaboration, we can transform potentially conflictual situations into pathways for growth and stronger connections. Remember that the goal isn't necessarily to win or to be right, but to find the best possible outcome for everyone involved and to strengthen the relationship in the process.
It's a shift from me versus you to us versus the problem.
Precisely. And this skill is foundational for so many other challenging conversations we'll be discussing.
This has been incredibly insightful, Alex. I feel much more equipped to approach disagreements constructively.
That's wonderful to hear. And that brings us to our next episode, where we'll explore how to deliver sensitive information with compassion. This is a critical skill when you need to share news or feedback that might be difficult to hear. Next episode, delivering sensitive information with compassion. Welcome back. Last time we explored how disagreements can lead to common ground.
That's right, Alex. It was all about seeing the other person's perspective and building understanding.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into a particularly delicate area, delivering sensitive information with compassion. This is where preparation meets empathy, crucial for trust and positive relationships.
This sounds challenging. Delivering bad news or critical feedback can feel like walking a tightrope. How do we ensure we're clear without being harsh and supportive without being unclear?
That's the question. The key is a mindful, multi-step approach. First, let's revisit preparation. When you have sensitive information to share, the more prepared you are, the calmer you'll be. This means having your facts straight, anticipating reactions, and practicing what you want to say.
So, it's about having everything in order before you speak, like gathering evidence for a case.
Precisely. Except your goal here isn't to win, but to ensure understanding and offer support. And that leads to our next critical element, timing and setting. When and where you deliver this information can drastically change how it's received.
Ah, so no dropping bombshells in a busy cafeteria or right before a big presentation.
Certainly not. Choose a private, quiet setting where the person can react without public scrutiny. And consider the timing. Is the person already overwhelmed? Is there a critical deadline looming? Sometimes a slight delay until a less stressful moment can make a world of difference, as long as the delay itself doesn't create more anxiety. But we also don't want to procrastinate indefinitely. It's a balancing act.
It sounds like you have to be attuned to the other person's circumstances.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the tone and language. Even carefully chosen words can sound harsh if delivered with the wrong tone. We want to convey sincerity, empathy, and respect. So a calm, measured voice is essential. Avoid accusatory language. Instead of saying, "You made a mistake," you might say, "This situation arose, and here's what happened." Let's look at how we can move forward.
I like that. It shifts the focus from blame to problem solving. It's less about pointing fingers and more about addressing the issue.
Exactly. And this also ties into being direct. While we want to be compassionate, we mustn't soften the message so much that it becomes ambiguous. Sensitive information still needs to be communicated clearly. So, it's a balance between clarity and kindness. Think of it like giving medicine. It might not taste good, but it's essential for healing.
So, don't sugarcoat it to the point of losing the core message.
Precisely. Some key phrases can be very helpful. Starting with something like, "I have some difficult news to share," or "I need to discuss something sensitive with you," can prepare the person. Then, deliver the core message directly but gently. For example, "The project deadline has been moved up, and this means we won't be able to include the new feature at this time."
That's clear, and it sets expectations. What about the reaction? People often react with shock, anger, or sadness. How do we handle that?
That's where active listening and empathy come into play. Allow the person to express their feelings. Don't interrupt. Not to show you're listening. Validate their emotions by saying things like, "I can see why you're upset," or "It's understandable that you'd feel frustrated." This doesn't mean you agree with everything they say, but you acknowledge their experience.
So, it's about making them feel heard, even if the news itself is unwelcome.
Yes. And after they've had a chance to react, it's crucial to offer support. This might involve discussing solutions, offering resources, or simply being present. If it's a work-related issue, you might discuss what support is available from the company. If it's a personal matter, it might be offering to help them find resources or just lending a listening ear.
It's about showing them they're not alone in dealing with this.
Exactly. And remember the preparation we spoke about? Part of that preparation should include thinking about what kind of support you can realistically offer. It's important not to overpromise.
That makes sense. So, to recap, when delivering sensitive information, we need to prepare thoroughly, choose the right time and place, use a compassionate and clear tone, and actively listen while offering support.
You got it, Lisa. It's about creating a safe space for a difficult conversation. It's not about making the bad news good, but about delivering it in a way that preserves dignity, fosters understanding, and strengthens the relationship moving forward. This approach helps ensure that the conversation, while difficult, leads to constructive outcomes rather than resentment.
It really highlights that difficult conversations aren't just about the information being shared, but about the humanity involved.
Beautifully put. And this skill is transferable. Next episode, the workplace arena, tackling performance and conflict.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to Master Difficult Conversations. We explored delivering sensitive information with compassion. Today, we're diving into a challenging arena, the workplace.
The workplace. That's where many of us spend a huge chunk of our lives, and inevitably friction and feedback sessions feel like walking a tightrope. So, Alex, how do we apply the principles we've learned to this professional setting?
Great question, Lisa. The foundation remains the same, preparation. When it comes to performance issues, whether it's a colleague not pulling their weight or your own performance review, meticulous preparation is your best friend. This means gathering specific examples, not just general feelings.
So, instead of saying, you're always late with your reports, it would be more like, the report for the Q3 project was due on Friday, October 27th, but it was submitted on Monday, October 30th. Specific, factual.
Exactly. And it's not just about documenting what happened, but also why it matters. What's the impact of that tardiness on the team, on the project deadline, on the company? Connecting the dots helps the other person understand the significance, not just the infraction. So, preparation involves understanding the facts, the impact, and what a positive outcome would look like.
That makes sense. It moves it from an accusation to a problem-solving discussion. And what about the emotional side? In the workplace, there can be a lot of ego and defensiveness.
Indeed, this is where managing pressure and emotion, which we discussed earlier, is vital. When you're delivering feedback about performance, remember your intention. Is it to criticize, or is it to help someone improve and contribute more effectively? Approaching it with a desire to help, rather than to blame, can soften the delivery.
So, framing is key. And this also applies to conflict resolution within a team. When ideas clash or deadlines cause friction, how do we steer that towards opportunity, as we talked about previously?
The principle of disagreement as opportunity is paramount here. Instead of viewing conflict as a negative force, see it as a sign that people are engaged. The goal isn't to avoid disagreements, but to manage them constructively. This often involves clarifying the underlying interests, not just the stated positions.
Can you give an example of that?
Certainly. Imagine two team members disagreeing strongly about the best marketing strategy for a new product. One might be pushing for a digital-heavy approach, the other for more traditional print media. Their stated positions are different platforms, but their underlying interests might be. One wants to leverage cost-effective, measurable results, while the other wants to reach a broader, perhaps older, demographic perceived to be more loyal.
So by understanding those underlying interests, you can find a strategy that might incorporate elements of both, or a completely new solution that satisfies both needs. It's about finding that common ground.
Precisely. And this often requires excellent listening skills. Really hearing beyond the words to understand the motivation, the concern, or the objective. In a team setting, this means facilitating that listening between colleagues as well. Asking clarifying questions can be a great tool here. So, if I understand correctly, your concern is about reaching our younger demographic. Is that right?
And this ties directly into delivering sensitive information, like when you have to inform someone their role is changing or that a project they worked hard on is being shelved. Compassion is non-negotiable there.
Absolutely. When delivering news that might negatively impact someone, the same principles of empathy, clarity, and honesty apply. Remember, the goal is to convey the information truthfully while minimizing unnecessary hurt. This often means choosing your words carefully and delivering the message in a private setting where the person can react without public scrutiny.
It feels like much of workplace communication boils down to managing expectations and providing clear, constructive feedback. Whether it's addressing underperformance or mediating a dispute, it's about creating an environment where people feel heard and respected, even when the conversation is difficult.
That's a perfect way to put it, Lisa. It's about cultivating psychological safety. When employees feel safe to speak up, to admit mistakes, to disagree respectfully, and to receive honest feedback, the entire organization benefits. It leads to better problem solving, innovation, and a more positive work environment overall.
So, to recap what we've covered today, the workplace is a significant arena for difficult conversations. Success hinges on thorough preparation, gathering specific examples, and understanding the impact of actions. We've emphasized managing emotions and reframing conflict as an opportunity by uncovering underlying interests. And, of course, compassionate delivery of sensitive information remains crucial, whether it's performance feedback or news of change.
Excellent summary. Lisa, these aren't just theoretical concepts. They are practical skills that can transform your professional interactions and, by extension, your career. Remember, every difficult conversation navigated skillfully builds your confidence and your ability to handle future challenges.
It's empowering to think about it that way. Rather than dreading these talks, we can see them as opportunities for growth, for ourselves and for our teams.
And that leads perfectly into our next episode, where we'll be looking at conversations within the family unit. How do we apply these same skills to connect and heal within our closest relationships?
That sounds like a deeply important topic. So, for episode 9, we're going to explore family matters, conversations that connect and heal.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back. Last time, we explored workplace conflicts. Now let's focus on family.
Our homes are often the backdrop for our most emotionally charged conversations. We're discussing navigating boundaries, expectations, and past hurts within family dynamics.
The principles we've discussed are crucial here, but family often brings a deep history and unique emotional investment.
So, how do we approach these sensitive talks effectively to preserve and deepen relationships?
First, preparation. Ask yourself, what is my goal for this conversation? Expressing a need, setting a boundary, clearing up a misunderstanding, or offering comfort.
With family, that goal might be about reconnection or healing, making it more complex.
Precisely. For instance, discussing boundaries with a parent. Think about why the boundary is important and how to communicate it without making them feel attacked. Instead of "you always interfere," prepare to say, I would appreciate some space to make my own decisions.
That shifts from accusation to personal need. And remembering active listening from episode 5 becomes paramount to prevent old patterns.
Absolutely. Actively listen. Try to hear the underlying emotions and needs. Are they feeling unheard, unappreciated, scared?
So, we need to listen for the unsaid, the emotional subtext, even with a lot of history.
It's powerful. If discussing holiday visit expectations, your parent might be expressing a fear of being forgotten. Hearing that fear allows you to respond with empathy. I understand you might worry about that, and I want to assure you that you're incredibly important to me. Let's talk about how we can make sure we stay connected.
That's much more connecting than saying, I can't make it.
Exactly. It shows you've heard them and are addressing their underlying concern. Now, let's talk about delivering sensitive information, like health or financial matters.
Ooh, financial matters can be intense with family.
They can be. Always choose the right time and place. A quiet, private setting is ideal. Start by stating your intention gently.
Like, I want to talk about something important with you.
Perfect. Then, deliver the information clearly and concisely. Avoid excessive jargon. And importantly, allow for a pause. Give them time to process.
That pause is critical. It creates space for their reaction. And that reaction might bring up old hurts.
A real possibility. If past hurts surface, acknowledge the pain and, if appropriate, express remorse or desire to move forward. Phrases like, I can see how that hurt you, or I'm truly sorry for the pain that caused, can be incredibly healing.
It's about validating their experience, even if you don't fully agree. It takes immense maturity.
It absolutely does. Building trust through these conversations is a long-term process. Remember, preparation, opening gently, listening deeply, managing emotions, and seeking common ground all apply here.
So, to recap, preparation is key when approaching family conversations. Know your goal and how to express your needs. Active listening is crucial to understand emotions and underlying needs.
Definitely. When delivering sensitive information, choose your setting wisely and allow for processing time. Acknowledging past hurts with empathy can facilitate healing. All of this builds resilience in your family relationships.
It's about fostering deeper connection and understanding, using challenging moments to strengthen bonds.
Well said, family matters, and learning to navigate these conversations can truly heal and connect us.
Next episode, we'll explore building resilience in all relationships by applying these skills to foster trust, even when things get tough.
Welcome back. Today, we tackle episode 10, Relationship Resilience Through Tough Talks.
That's right, Alex. We're applying our communication skills directly to our closest bonds, romantic partnerships, and friendships.
These are often where the stakes feel highest. Disagreements about commitment or differing needs can be tough, but there are also chances to deepen trust. Remember finding common ground from episode 6? That's vital here.
It is. How we handle conflict truly builds resilience. It's like strengthening a muscle. The more we exercise it healthily, the stronger our relationships become.
Exactly. So, how do we approach sensitive topics personally? Realize your partner or friend isn't an adversary. There's someone you care about, and that shared foundation is your starting point.
That's a great reminder. It's easy to get defensive, but remembering the underlying affection shifts the dynamic. If a disagreement about future plans arises, how should someone start that conversation?
A good opener focuses on your feelings and observations, not accusations. Instead of, you never consider my future, try, I've been feeling a bit uncertain about our long-term plans, and I'd love to talk about how we envision our future together. This opens dialogue.
I like that. It's gentle and inclusive, framing it as a shared exploration. And what about differing needs? That can be tricky.
Differing needs are common. One person might need alone time, another thrives on constant connection. The key here is empathy, as we discussed in episode 5. Can you truly understand what your partner needs, even if it's different from yours?
And can you express your own needs clearly and kindly? It's a two-way street. You have to articulate your needs without expecting mind reading.
Precisely. Imagine your needs as different ingredients for a happy relationship. You have to measure and add them carefully. So, if you need more quiet time, say, I find I recharge best with an hour of quiet at home each evening. Could we explore how to make that work for both of us?
That's a fantastic analogy. It makes differing needs tangible. It's about finding solutions that accommodate both individuals. And what about tough conversations around commitment? Those are emotionally charged.
They certainly can be. When discussing commitment, like escalating a relationship, making joint financial decisions, or navigating challenges, testing the bond, honesty and vulnerability are paramount. Express your fears and hopes in a way that invites your partner to share theirs.
So, it's not about demands, but sharing your inner world and inviting theirs. You're building a bridge of understanding, not a wall of expectation.
Exactly. And remember those active listening skills from episode 5? When your partner shares feelings or concerns, truly listen. Don't just wait to speak. Reflect back. So, if I'm understanding correctly, you're feeling worried about X because of Y. Is that right? This validates their experience.
That validation is so powerful. It tells the other person, I see you and I hear you. Even if you don't agree, feeling heard can diffuse tension.
It truly can. And this is where relationship resilience shines. It's in those moments where you disagree, feel pressure, maybe disappointment, but you choose to engage constructively. You choose to see the challenge as an opportunity to strengthen your bond, not break it. It's about weathering the storm together.
And when you successfully navigate such a conversation, what is the outcome? It's not just resolving the immediate issue, is it?
No, it's about building a reservoir of trust. Each time you have a difficult conversation and handle it with respect and empathy, you add to that reservoir. Your partner learns they can trust you to be honest, even when it's hard, and that you value the relationship enough to work through challenges together. This is the essence of resilience.
So, it's about the small, consistent efforts in communication that fortify the relationship against future challenges. It's a proactive approach to maintaining a strong, healthy bond.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. These conversations aren't just about conflict resolution. They're about connection building. They're the moments that can either create distance or draw you closer. By applying preparation, active listening, empathy, and clear expression of needs, you actively strengthen your relationships.
It really brings home the idea that difficult conversations aren't just a necessary evil, they are a vital tool for nurturing deep, lasting, and resilient relationships. We're not just talking about avoiding arguments, we're talking about actively growing closer through honest communication.
You've got it. And this focus on resilience through communication will set us up perfectly for our next episodes, where we'll be looking at reflection, follow up, and some advanced strategies.
Excellent. So, to recap for our listeners, in personal relationships, approach tough talks with a foundation of care and shared history. Start conversations by expressing your feelings and observations gently, and focus on understanding your partner's needs as well as articulating your own. Empathy and active listening are your most powerful tools for validating experiences. Successfully navigating these conversations builds trust and strengthens your relationship's resilience, creating a deeper, more connected bond.
Well said. And that brings us to the end of episode 10. Next episode, when words fail, nonverbal cues and body language. Welcome back to Master Difficult Conversations. We're diving deep into what happens when words are enough.
That's right, Alex. We've talked a lot about the spoken word, but so much of communication isn't verbal at all. It's about the messages we send without even realizing it.
Exactly, Lisa. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone says they're fine, but their arms are crossed, their jaw is tight, and they avoid eye contact? What message are you really getting?
You're getting the message that they are not fine. Your brain registers conflicting signals, the words and the body language, and something's not adding up. This is so important in difficult conversations where emotions run high.
Precisely. Today, we're exploring how to read nonverbal cues in others and how to manage our own signals to avoid sending unintended messages. This builds on our discussion of active listening.
So, let's start with reading others. What are some common nonverbal cues we should be paying attention to?
Great question. We can break it down into a few categories. First, facial expressions. A genuine smile involves the eyes crinkling. A forced smile often doesn't. Raised eyebrows can signal surprise or questioning, while a furrowed brow might indicate confusion or concern.
And tone of voice, right? Even if someone says, I understand, the way they say it, is it flat, sharp, or warm? Tells us their actual level of understanding.
Absolutely. Tone of voice is a huge part of vocal nonverbals. A rushed tone might suggest nervousness or impatience. A slow, deliberate tone could indicate consideration or sometimes condescension. Volume also matters. Are they speaking softly due to shyness or loudly due to passion?
Then there's body posture and gestures. You mentioned crossed arms earlier. What else?
Open posture, with arms uncrossed and hands visible, generally signals receptiveness. Leaning in slightly can show engagement, while leaning back might indicate disinterest. Fidgeting, like tapping feet or playing with a pen, can signal anxiety. Direct eye contact is usually a sign of confidence, but too much can feel aggressive, and too little can suggest avoidance.
It sounds like a lot to process while you're also trying to concentrate on what someone is saying.
It absolutely is, and that's where practice comes in. The key is to observe these cues together, not in isolation. One single cue might not mean much, but a cluster of them can paint a clearer picture. For example, if someone is avoiding eye contact, speaking in a low monotone, and their shoulders are slumped, the message is likely one of disengagement or sadness.
So, it's about looking for patterns. These patterns can help us gauge if the verbal message aligns with the nonverbal one. This sounds incredibly useful for understanding if someone is truly hearing us, or if they're feeling defensive.
Exactly. Now, let's flip this around. How can we manage our own nonverbal cues in difficult conversations? Because we're not just readers, we're also senders.
This is the part where we need to be more mindful. If I'm feeling defensive, my arms might instinctively cross. If I'm trying to show empathy, I need to make sure my face and body reflect that.
Precisely. One of the most important things we can do is to consciously adopt an open posture. Keep your arms uncrossed, your shoulders back, but relaxed, and lean in slightly to show you're engaged. Making appropriate eye contact signals respect and sincerity.
And try to keep your facial expressions congruent with your message. If you're trying to convey concern, a neutral or a slightly smiling face won't help. It might even undermine your words.
Yes, congruence is vital. If you're delivering sensitive information, a calm and steady tone of voice, coupled with a serious but kind facial expression, will create a much safer space. Even mirroring, subtly adopting some of the other person's positive nonverbals can build rapport, but it needs to be subtle.
That's an interesting point. So, it's not just about avoiding negative cues, but also about actively projecting positive ones. Like using our hands gently when we speak to emphasize a point.
Right? When words fail, or when words are causing confusion, our nonverbal signals can bridge the gap or widen it. If you try to express empathy, a soft, warm tone and a concerned look are critical. If you're trying to convey respect, maintaining eye contact and a calm demeanor are key.
So, to recap, when approaching a difficult conversation, we should pay attention to 1. Facial expressions, the eyes, brows, and mouth. 2. Tone of voice, pitch, pace, volume, and emotion. 3. Body language, posture, gestures, and eye contact.
And of course, our own nonverbal communication. We need to be aware of our tendencies under stress and consciously choose signals that foster understanding rather than defensiveness. Imagine a scale. On one end, you have body language and tone that say, I'm open and empathetic. And on the other, you have signals that scream, I'm closed off and uninterested. We want to intentionally move towards that open, empathetic side.
This really underscores how complex communication is. It's a three-dimensional dance of words, tone, and body. By becoming more aware of these elements, we can navigate discussions more skillfully and build stronger connections.
Absolutely. It's about becoming a more complete communicator. We've covered a lot about reading and managing nonverbal cues today. Next time, we'll focus on what happens after the conversation, looking at reflection and follow-up.
Looking forward to it. Next episode, post-conversation reflection and follow-up.
Welcome back. Last time, we explored nonverbal communication. Now, let's focus on what happens after a difficult conversation ends.
That's so important, Alex. How we handle the aftermath really determines the conversation's long-term success. It's like dousing a fire. You need to check for embers and clean up.
Exactly. The first crucial step after a tough talk is reflection. How did you feel? How do you think the other person felt? What went well? What could you have done differently? These questions are tools for growth.
So, it's self-assessment, not self-blame. If a performance conversation at work didn't go perfectly, reflecting on your approach helps you improve for next time.
Precisely. And it's not just about your actions, but the outcome. Did the conversation achieve its purpose? Was there clear understanding? Were agreements made? If the goal was healing a family rift, reflecting shows if more steps are needed.
So, reflection means asking ourselves about our conduct, the other person's experience, and the results. It's reviewing the game tape.
A perfect analogy. Building on reflection, we move to follow up. This is where we act on our reflections and agreements. Following up reinforces the conversation and shows commitment, whether in personal relationships or professional settings.
What does follow-up look like? Is it always formal?
Not all. It could be a simple check-in, a quick chat to confirm understanding, or seeing if agreed actions have been taken. If you agreed to share resources, the follow-up is sending them. It closes the loop.
So, if there was a misunderstanding with a friend, the follow-up might be a text saying, "Hope we're good. Let me know if you need anything else." It shows you're still invested.
Exactly. And remember nonverbal cues from our previous episode? A follow-up can involve reinforcing positive body language, a nod, a smile, to confirm that the conversation led to a better connection.
That's a great link to our previous discussion. So, post-conversation. First, reflection, evaluating what happened and how to improve. Second, follow-up, taking actions to reinforce agreements and commitment.
And another crucial element is learning and growth. Every difficult conversation is an opportunity. By reflecting and following up, we gain insights into our own and others' communication patterns. This continuous learning transforms us from surviving tough talks to mastering them.
This cycle of reflection, follow-up, and learning builds resilience, right? It's not a one-time event.
Absolutely. If you've had several tough conversations with a colleague about collaboration, and you reflect and follow up diligently, you'll see patterns. You might be good at starting talks, but struggle with stating your needs assertively. Recognizing this allows for focused development.
So, instead of hoping things improve, you're actively engaged in a process that makes them improve. It reduces the unpredictability.
Precisely. Think of learning a musical instrument. You practice, get feedback, try a new piece, reflect on errors, and practice again, perhaps focusing on a specific technique. This iterative process leads to mastery. Difficult conversations are similar.
That's a very helpful perspective. We reflect on the performance, follow up with more practice based on that reflection, and we learn and improve. The conversation is just one part of the skill building journey.
Exactly. By consistently applying these post-conversation strategies, you're not only handling immediate challenges better, but you're also building a foundation for stronger relationships and more effective communication long term. It's about intentionality.
It really ties everything together, doesn't it? Preparation, navigation, and thoughtful processing afterward all contribute to becoming a more skilled communicator.
It truly does. So, to summarize this episode, after a difficult conversation, reflect honestly on your actions, the other person's perspective, and the outcome. Then, take purposeful follow-up actions to reinforce agreements and demonstrate commitment. Finally, view each conversation as a chance for continuous learning and growth.
And that brings us to the end of this episode. It's a reminder that the ripple effects of a conversation continue long after the words have faded.
Indeed. Next episode, we'll explore advanced strategies for high-stakes conversations. Welcome back. Last time, we covered post-conversation reflection. Now, let's tackle advanced strategies.
That's right, Alex. We're moving into the most challenging scenarios today. This is where all our previous learnings really get put to the test.
Exactly. One of the most crucial advanced strategies is mediation. Think about situations where you're facilitating a dialogue between two or more parties in conflict. This requires immense neutrality and skillful guiding.
So, in mediation, the goal isn't necessarily for you to solve their problem, but to help them find a solution together?
Precisely. Your role is to create a safe space for communication. This involves active listening, not just to what's being said, but to the underlying needs and feelings. You'll need to reframe accusatory language into descriptive statements. For instance, instead of "you always ignore my ideas," you might help one party say, "I feel unheard when my suggestions aren't discussed."
That shift from blame to personal experience is so powerful. It moves away from an attack and towards an expression of need.
Absolutely. And in these high-stakes mediations, you'll often encounter deeply entrenched disagreements. People can get stuck in their perspectives, fortified by years of belief or experience. This is where strategic questioning becomes vital. You need to ask open-ended questions that encourage deeper reflection, not just a rehashing of their current position.
What kind of questions would those be?
Questions like, what would need to happen for you to consider another perspective? Or what are the potential long-term consequences of remaining in this position? These aren't confrontational. They invite introspection and can gently nudge someone towards considering possibilities they've previously dismissed. Remember how we talked about exploring needs? These questions are designed to uncover those deeper, often unmet needs.
I see. It's about helping them see the situation from a slightly different angle, encouraging them to question their own absolutist thinking without directly challenging it.
Yes, and this leads directly into handling resistance, which is a hallmark of high-stakes conversations. Sometimes individuals are locked into their stance, not just due to belief, but due to fear, pride, or a feeling of being misunderstood. When facing extreme resistance, your initial strategy might need to shift. Instead of pushing for agreement, sometimes the advanced move is to acknowledge and validate their resistance.
Acknowledge it, so you don't try to break through it immediately?
Not necessarily. You might say something like, "I hear how strongly you feel about this, and it's clear you're very firm in your position. It sounds like this is incredibly important to you." This approach disarms the resistance. It shows you're not ignoring their passionate stance. Once that's acknowledged, you can then, very gently, reintroduce the possibility of exploring other options or understanding other viewpoints. It's like gently opening a door instead of trying to kick it down.
That's a brilliant analogy, Alex. It's about reducing the perceived threat so they can become more open. It reminds me of managing pressure and emotion. Acknowledging their stance can lower the emotional temperature.
Exactly. And this all ties back to the principle of synthesizing information. In high-stakes situations, you might have a lot of complex data, emotions, and differing viewpoints. A crucial advanced skill is the ability to synthesize these disparate pieces into a coherent whole. This means summarizing not just what people say, but what they mean and identifying the core issues that lie beneath the surface.
So, you're not just repeating their words, but distilling the essence of the conversation, highlighting common threads or the root of the conflict.
Precisely. You might say so. If I'm understanding correctly, on one hand, we have a need for efficiency and timely completion, and on the other, there's a need for detailed accuracy. The challenge is finding a way for these two crucial elements to coexist. This kind of synthesis helps clarify the problem space for everyone involved. It demonstrates your comprehension and provides a shared understanding to build upon.
And that clarity is often the first step towards resolution, isn't it? When everyone feels understood and the core issues are laid bare.
It is. We've also discussed the importance of nonverbal cues. In high-stakes conversations, these become even more critical. You need to be acutely aware of your own body language, maintaining an open, non-threatening posture, and to observe the other person's cues for signs of discomfort, agreement, or further resistance. Sometimes, a slight shift in body language can tell you more than words.
And as we approach the end of our series, it's important to remember that these advanced strategies are built upon all the fundamentals we've covered. You can't effectively mediate without good listening skills. You can't deliver sensitive information compassionately without understanding how to manage emotions.
Absolutely. This episode is really about integrating everything. It's about taking the preparation we outlined, the opening techniques, the emotional management, the deep listening, the conflict navigation, the compassionate delivery, and applying them in situations that demand the utmost skill and finesse.
And even when the conversation concludes, as we learned, reflection and follow-up are still vital, especially after a high-stakes discussion. Checking in afterwards, reinforcing any agreements, or simply acknowledging the effort made can solidify progress.
Indeed. So, to recap the advanced strategies for high-stakes conversations, we've focused on mediation, using neutral facilitation to help parties reach their own solutions. We've emphasized strategic questioning to encourage deeper thinking and uncover underlying needs. We've discussed acknowledging and validating resistance as a way to disarm it, and the art of synthesizing complex information for clarity. And, of course, the heightened importance of nonverbal communication.
It's about being adaptable, highly attuned, and leveraging all the tools in our difficult conversations toolkit. These advanced techniques are what allow us to navigate the most complex human interactions with greater skill and confidence.
Thank you for joining us for this penultimate episode. Next episode, your lifelong journey. Welcome back to the final episode of Master Difficult Conversations.
It's hard to believe we've reached the end of our series on navigating tough talks.
In this concluding episode, we'll recap the core principles, emphasize that this is a continuous journey, and offer final encouragement. We want to highlight the powerful impact of confident and compassionate communication.
So, Alex, what's the overarching message we've been building towards?
The fundamental idea is that difficult conversations are not obstacles. but rather gateways to deeper understanding, stronger relationships, and personal growth. We frame them as opportunities for connection, not conflict.
And that preparation we discussed in episode 2 always comes back to mind. It really is the foundation.
Indeed, being prepared means knowing your objectives, understanding potential perspectives, and cultivating a mindset that is ready to engage rather than retreat. It's about clarity of purpose while staying flexible.
Then, episode 3 focused on how to actually initiate these conversations using constructive language and I statements.
Precisely. Setting a respectful tone from the outset by stating your intention and inviting dialogue signals a collaborative approach. It's about saying, let's figure this out together.
Once the conversation begins, it can get challenging. Episode 4 dealt with managing the inevitable pressure and emotions.
That's where emotional intelligence truly shines. Staying present, recognizing your own feelings, and not being overwhelmed by the other person's emotions are key. Taking a pause can help channel that energy constructively.
And that leads directly into the critical skill of listening, explored in episode 5. You really made it clear that listening is an active process.
Absolutely. Active listening means concentrating fully, understanding the message, responding thoughtfully, and remembering that message. It's about genuinely trying to grasp their experience, not just waiting for your turn to speak.
It makes such a difference when you feel truly heard. And episode 6 taught us that even disagreement can be a positive force.
Yes, viewing disagreement as an invitation to explore different viewpoints can be incredibly effective. Finding common ground means identifying shared values and working from there.
Then we move to the sensitive task of delivering challenging news in episode 7. That requires real care.
It does. This is about combining compassion with clarity, being truthful and direct, but always with kindness.
We also addressed specific environments. Episode 8 looked at workplace conversations, and episode 9 explored family discussions.
These settings often feel high stakes. In the workplace, we talked about addressing performance and resolving conflicts. In families, it's about strengthening bonds and healing rifts.
And episode 10 built on that, showing how these conversations contribute to relationship resilience.
Because each successfully navigated difficult conversation builds trust and demonstrates commitment to the relationship's health.
Then, in episode 11, you highlighted the importance of nonverbal communication.
Body language can speak volumes. Understanding both your own and others' nonverbal cues can prevent misunderstandings and add depth to your communication.
And after the conversation ends, episode 12 reminded us about the importance of reflection and following up.
Reflection helps us learn from the experience, and follow-up ensures that actions are taken and agreements are kept. It solidifies the resolution.
Finally, in episode 13, we covered advanced techniques for exceptionally challenging conversations.
That's right. We explored strategies for de-escalation and managing prolonged or intense conflicts, equipping you for the toughest scenarios.
And that brings us to today, episode 14, where we're focusing on this being a lifelong practice.
Exactly. This isn't a skill you master once. It's a continuous journey of learning and refinement. Like any craft, the more you practice, the more natural and effective you become. New situations will always arise.
What's your best advice for listeners who want to keep honing these skills?
My advice is to be deliberate. Look for opportunities, big or small, to apply these principles. Don't shy away from conversations that feel a bit daunting. Take time to reflect on your interactions and acknowledge your progress.
And to reiterate that core shift, moving from feeling dread to viewing these talks as vital for healthy connections and personal development.
Precisely. The ability to communicate effectively during difficult times fosters understanding, builds stronger relationships, and ultimately contributes to a more harmonious environment, one conversation at a time.
This has been an incredibly valuable series, Alex. Thank you for sharing your expertise and for this enriching journey.
The pleasure has been all mine, Lisa. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. We truly hope this series has empowered you to approach your difficult conversations with greater confidence and skill.
Thanks for listening to the series.